Welcome into the Hustle Show podcast here on WagerTalk TV for this Hustle Short on Monday, October 23rd. I'm Mark Zinno, joined as always by the affable, the intelligent, the wonderful Brian Power. Follow him on Twitter at BrianPower_wins. BP, great to be with you as always. Happy Monday. I'm afraid to ask you how your weekend went because I know it's going to lead us down a road that we might not be able to get out of.
Yeah, Mark, it was an 8-8 overall weekend for yours truly. We can always do better than that. But obviously, very disappointed about one play in particular, a 5% loss that I had. I don't do a lot of 5% plays, so when I lose them, I take it pretty hard. And this one was really frustrating. I had the LA Rams. I know you were on the Rams as well. I really want to rant about the Steelers. And it doesn't come down to just the one bad fourth down call at the end, where the bad spot by the officials, where clearly the Steelers were stopped. The Rams should have got the ball back and had a chance to tie the game. The Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, Mark, are a team that just leaves me scratching my head. It's a lot like Iowa in college football, a team I successfully played against on Saturday. Pittsburgh has a statistical profile of a team that should have a losing record. Outgained in all 6 games. They have 3 wins by more than 1 possession since the start of 2021. A minus 120 point differential over the last 3 years in the regular season. So when I get on Twitter and I'm exasperated, I express frustration, it's not just about that bad spot by the officials. It's the totality of the Steelers, a team that I don't think is very good. I'm still going to maintain that. I'm going to die on that hill, much like I think in college football, the Iowa Hawkeyes are not particularly good, a team that has been outgained in all but 1 game. And that's only because they faced Western Michigan, a bad MAC team. So that's how I'm doing, Mark. Eventually, the Steelers will regress, okay? And speaking of regression, that brings us to Monday Night Football and the 2023 Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, let me just add one thing in. You glossed over it. I will not gloss over the egregious error by the officials on that spot on fourth down. Look, and as BP said, I was freely on the Rams -3. Even them getting that spot correct doesn't mean the Rams go down and score a touchdown. Doesn't mean it goes to overtime and the Rams win. So this has nothing to do with what I bet. But the simple fact of the matter is that within 3 seconds of that play being whistled dead, we had 2 other views that showed Kenny Pickett's knee was down and he was clearly short of the line of scrimmage. I don't care that Sean McVay had no timeouts. It is impossibly wrong that New York and somebody at the command center doesn't hit a button and whistle down to the refs and go, you need to review this. This doesn't look like he made it. You got the call wrong and get it right. I don't understand how college football can get it so right every week and the NFL can get it so wrong. And the answer to that is that the NFL doesn't have to care because we'll watch tomorrow. We'll watch the next week. We'll watch the following week. We'll watch the following year. And they don't care if their product stinks or not because we keep showing up to watch. So they don't have to get it right. But it's absolutely frustrating. There is legitimately, we've seen New York get involved in other spots and say, oh, hey, you missed something. We saw something. We're gonna get an interject here. You can't make it random. And the fact that the officials on the field couldn't go, you know what? We should probably go to the booth and review this. It's a critical juncture in the game. I don't care that he has no timeouts. That's not what this is about. This is about getting it right, period. And it's just so frustrating that there is absolutely no care or concern to get the call right one way or another. I'm off my soapbox.
Well, I just want to add one more thing on that because some people maybe say, "Oh, BP, you weren't like saying anything about the officials when you got the call in the Iowa-Minnesota game." Obviously, everyone saw was it a fair catch? Was it not a fair catch? It nullified the punt return by Iowa. But here's the thing, okay? There was actually precedent for that call to be made. Go back to 2015. Yeah. There's always these eagle-eyed people on Twitter that astound me that can remember these things. But there was a Wisconsin-Northwestern game where the same thing happened and the refs nullified the punt return. To my knowledge, though, as we turn to the pros, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, you've always needed 10 yards for a first down since the sport was created. And the Pittsburgh Steelers did not have 10 yards to get that first down late Sunday. But onward and upward, like I said, the Steelers will regress in this life or the next. Just like the Minnesota Vikings, the luck box team of last year has regressed this year.
Just let it be noted to all of WagerTalk TV out there. Brian Power officially hates anything in black and yellow. Bumblebees included. Okay, moving on. Yeah, the Vikings will take on the San Francisco 49ers tonight. 49ers laying 6.5. There are some 7s out there, too, I'm seeing. Shop around for what number you want. And a fairly low total here sitting at 43. So we have a bunch of injuries to San Francisco. We know Deebo Samuel's not going to play. It looks like Trent Williams is doubtful. Christian McCaffrey looks like he's going to give it a go. And Brock Purdy obviously is okay to play. So that's factoring into this thing here a little bit here, BP. But, I mean, Vikings feel sort of in a desperate spot. I know Minnesota is still a tough place to play, one of the tougher venues, one of the louder venues in the league. The Vikings still have a lot of offensive weapons, although it's not hard to figure out whether they figured it out without Justin Jefferson yet, right? I mean, they didn't look like the same Vikings team with Justin Jefferson off the field last week as they did with him on the field the week before. So does one more week without Justin Jefferson give you any pause that the Vikings might be able to figure something out offensively?
Okay, I think you've got two options to play this game if you're looking at a traditional way. Number one is to take the points with Minnesota. Number two would be if there's something you already like for next week in the NFL, I would tease San Francisco down to minus a half. So you only need to win, with something else. Because I do think this is going to be a one possession game. I guess the deciding factor and what our listeners need to, decide for themselves is, are you more confident that the Vikings could steal this game outright? Or are you more confident that the 49ers could blow the Vikings out? The 49ers are looking like a pretty public side. I'll say that tonight. I mean, despite the injuries, everybody looks like they're on them on the road, coming off a loss. It was kind of a crazy loss at Cleveland last week. But I think that's the decision you have to make, Mark, because this smells like a one possession game. You mentioned the low total. All Minnesota does, they're like the Chargers, save for yesterday. Every Vikings game has been decided by one possession. Now, the difference, as we alluded to earlier, is they're losing more of those than they're winning this year, whereas last year they were an incredible 11-0 and one-score games during the regular season. Ironically, they lose a one-score game in the playoffs there. But I think that's what people have to make the determination of. Do you think it's more likely the 49ers blow them out? Or do you think the Vikings could steal it? Because I think it's either you take the points or you tease the Niners down.
I mean, again, and I don't think the Niners actually care about winning by margin here. For them, it's escape with a win, and that's all they really care about. Had they won last week against Cleveland, I would view this game a little bit differently. I think you and I talked about that in Sunday night game with the Eagles and the Dolphins that had the Eagles beat the Jets. I would have viewed that game much differently because they lost. I jumped all over the Eagles last night and was very, very happy with the outcome. So I think there's a little bit of that here as well with San Francisco that, the loss probably refocuses them a little bit and they'll be a little bit sharper. But again, they don't have to win by margin for it to matter for them. So I'm not so sure they're interested. And I think the back door will always be open. If they're up by 10 or 11 or whatever it may be, Minnesota's going to score a late touchdown. I think that really, is a viable game script that could unfold. Let me tell you one thing I'm looking at here with the absence of Deebo Samuel. And we talked about the injuries, but Brandon Ayuk now is going to be elevated to the number one receiving target for Brock Purdy. Now, he's produced a lot this year. In the 5 to 6 games he played, he only sat out that Thursday night game against the New York Giants. But in 5 of the 6 games they've played, he's been targeted at least 6 times, and he's caught at least 3 receptions in every single game. He's averaging 18.1 yards per reception this season. However, Brandon Ayuk has not seen the end zone, BP, since week 1 against the Steelers, where he scored 2 touchdowns. Samuel out of the lineup. Ayuk clearly, again, going to be the main outside threat. That 18.1 yards per reception, second in the NFC overall, fourth in the NFL as far as yards per reception. Vikings pass defense, very susceptible. It's not as bad as it was last year, but still very middle of the road. I like Brandon Ayuk here for an anytime touchdown, plus 135 to find the end zone for the first time since week 1.
It's so what's funny is last week on the show, if the viewers remember, you and I both attacked the Chargers receiving core with props, and we both won. You had Palmer over receiving yards. I had Keenan Allen over his number of receptions, and we've been doing pretty well with props, the two of us. Not to pat ourselves on the back, but we both cashed that C.J. Stroud interception prop last Sunday. 2 Mondays ago on this show, I hit the Jimmy G interception prop. You hit Alvin Kamara over his receiving yards total. Very easy on Thursday. Congratulations to you. And I bring all this up because I, too, am looking at the 49ers receiving core, but I'm going a different route. I'm going to look at George Kittle, who I think could expect more targets. And here's the thing, okay? There's 3 ways I looked at this. One is him in the anytime touchdown market. That's the best bang for your buck because he was plus 155 in that regard last I looked, okay? His number of receptions this morning when you and I first talked, to go over what we're going to say on the show here, it was a heavily juiced over 3.5. It was like minus 166. That number I've seen get bet up now to 4.5. And it's still juiced like minus 140 or so. So what I'm going to look at for Kittle, because I don't want to lay that kind of juice on a prop, I'm going to look at over 47.5 receiving yards for George Kittle, minus 120. I think the key with Kittle is he has been Purdy's security blanket when facing the blitz. What do the Vikings like to do defensively, Mark? They like to blitz. So look for Purdy to target Kittle a lot when blitzed. I think he goes over 47.5 receiving yards tonight. That will be my show best bet.
Yeah, and again, I agree with you overall on the teasing option. I think if you want to just look at the Thursday night football, the Niners and Bills, who are favored by 7.5, get them down to 1.5 would be an easy 1-2 teaser option before we even get to the weekend. So look for that. All right, let's pivot because we have some baseball to get to tonight. A Game 6 in the NLCS, Game 7 in the ALCS. Let's start with Game 6 here tonight in Philadelphia. Look, I'll say this much. I think if you told me that you wanted to lay it with the Phillies on the money line minus around 180, I can't argue with you. I don't think the Phillies are losing this game. It just, there's just so much momentum and that ballpark and everything that they've built so far. I genuinely believe that the Phillies are wrapping it up here in 6. So I'm not even going to get involved with anything else. I'm not sure. I mean, if you want to take first 5, go ahead. I wouldn't argue with that either. But unless a huge outburst of scoring comes from Arizona early, I don't know that I necessarily believe that that Arizona really has a chance here.
Okay. Well, here's the beauty. If you listen to the show here every Monday with me, Mark and I, 2 weeks ago, I said Phillies in 6 or less was the best way to attack the NLCS. We are at what point now, Mark? Game 6. So if the Phillies win tonight, that prop would cash. And the good news is you don't have to lay the juice tonight if you play that, because you could have bet that at plus 118 2 weeks ago for the Phillies to wrap this series up in 6 games or less. Now, obviously, you have to lay a much higher price if you want them to win tonight. Something that we should talk about, Merrill Kelly, home versus road. He's just like his buddy in this D-back starting rotation, Zach Gallen. There is certainly a huge split. He's much worse on the road than at home. I'm with you. I don't see any way the Phillies lose tonight. So I expect them to advance to their second straight World Series. It's just a question of, were you already on it like me? Or do you want to just lay the juice tonight? I wouldn't fault you for laying the juice. I know it is a high price, but yeah, I agree. Phillies wrap this thing up.
Yeah, it's hard for me to. I don't see a path to victory here for Arizona unless Merrill Kelly does what Brendan Pfaadt did the other night and pitched the game of his life and shut down an entire Phillies lineup, which seems nearly impossible to do with Trey Turner and Bryce Harper both batting, about 8 billion on their batting average to this point. And so there is that. All right, final game on the card tonight, ALCS, Game 7 for all the marbles, all the huevos. We get the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros here. Astros a slight favorite in the game overall. Not a single home team has won a game yet in this series. So if you want to believe that trend can continue, knock yourself out. I don't know if I believe that. I mean, Game 7s are just these strange anomalies all on their own. I will add this. I think a lot of this game hinges on one simple thing here, BP, and that is Max Scherzer and how he starts. He made his first start in over a month in Game 3 in the same pitching matchup against Christian Javier. He only lasted 4 innings, gave up 5 runs, and he got touched up early in the game. He was on a pitch count coming back. They were supposed to aim for 60 to 65 pitches. He only threw 63. But I think here's the thing that doesn't matter. Even if Scherzer has a longer pitch count, everyone's on a short leash in Game 7. Right? You get in trouble early, they're going right to getting you out of here. The whole thing rests for Texas on the idea that Scherzer can get through the lineup once without giving up a run. If he can do that, I think he sets up the Rangers nicely for their bats to be able to get to Javier. The last time Javier pitched, he went 4 2/3, retiring, 12 of the first, or 13 of the first 14 batters. He gave up a walk somewhere, but other than that, he got everybody else out until there was through 4 2/3 innings, then gave up a single and a home run. So Javier has been a great postseason pitcher his entire career, may have the edge here, but Scherzer has to match him. I think Scherzer can do it. I think his second start back will be more effective. He's been great in Game 7s before when he was in Washington. This feels like a spot here where it's tight early. That's about the best handicap I can come up with.
Yeah, I agree with you that Scherzer is clearly the X factor because we haven't seen him pitch well in a while. And oh, by the way, not only did he get beaten up in his first start back earlier this series, he was beaten up by Houston late in the regular season. I think he's given up, 12 runs in 11 innings the last 2 times he's faced Houston? That's not very good or inspiring if you're a Rangers fan. Now, I want to talk about the crazy trend that you mentioned of the road team winning every single time in this series. That not unprecedented. It was the 2019 World Series. Who was involved in that? Mark, the Houston Astros. The road team, I believe, won all 7 games in that series. And who pitched Game 7?
I think it would be Christian Javier.
Yes. No, Max
No.
Scherzer was involved in that game
Max
for
Scherzer.
Washington.
That's
Yeah,
right.
for Washington. Yeah. So he's kind of been in this spot before. It was interesting, a very high total. This total opened up at as high as 10 at some shops. I know the trend with these two teams has been to the over, but in a Game 7, that number feels high, and it was hit. I mean, it's down to 9 everywhere now. There were some 9.5s earlier this morning. It's down to 9. I agree with you. The entire, I think, handicap folks, do you think Scherzer can be okay? If he doesn't blow up like he did in Game 3, then I think we're looking at a low-scoring game here, and that over trend will not continue. Whether or not the road trend continues, I don't know, to be honest with you.
Game 7 is such flips. I mean, everything can turn on a dime. I will say this much. Go ahead.
No, I'll say, I wrote this up yesterday because I took Texas first 5 in Game 6. I thought they had a huge edge in starting pitching with Eovaldi over Framber Valdez. Framber Valdez has just simply not been very good. But I wrote this. The travel's not a big deal in this series. Obviously, we've got 2 teams in this. Texas is a very large state, obviously, but I mean, it's not, Houston to Dallas in the scheme of professional sports is a very short trip. So that's the deal. Like, home field advantage just, may not be all it's cracked up to be in this series. And that might be why we've seen the road team go 6-0 so far. But again, though, if Scherzer doesn't blow up early, then I think this game is probably going to go under. That would be my take on Game 7.
I'm with you. I will add this much. Texas has to play with a lead because of the 4 remaining bullpens that are left right now. Texas is by far the worst. They've given up the most home runs. They've given up the most walks. They have the highest whip and the second highest ERA. In the highest ERA. It's not good. And that is a problem against a team like Houston. So if Houston for somehow leads after 5, it's probably lights out. I think that'd be the only other way to play it. If you really feel confident that Houston's going to win this thing, I would take them first 5 just because, again, if they get out to a lead, they're not relinquishing it. It's really hard for me to think that Texas's bullpen is going to show up in a big way. Look what happened in Game 4, was it? Or was it 5? Game 5, sorry, yeah, when they blew the lead late. So, it's going to be interesting to see. But Game 7 is always fun to watch, and it certainly will be worth looking at tonight. So that'll do it for us here on this Hustle Short. Again, you follow him on Twitter at BrianPower_wins. I'm at Mark Zinno. Of course, he is at WT.buzz/BP. I'm at SM.buzz/MZ over at Sports Memo. You guys can get all of our plays there tonight for the card in Major League Baseball and the NFL. Yes, BP. He has
just one last thing. Yes, the finger up. I'm saying yes. We do need to let everyone know. You talk about you told them where to find us. We do have to let everyone know site-wide 3-day all-access pass right now. It's a great time to get all access because basketball and NBA starting tomorrow. Okay, we've got NFL, college, there's football every day. I've got soccer going on. Champions League is back Tuesday. I know you're very excited, Mark. But again, 3-day all access. Yes, yeah, you could take $20, just $49. You get every pick for 3 days for just $49. From Mark, from me, from anybody. There you go, right there. Take advantage right now.
And of course, don't forget to check out the full episode of the Hustle Show podcast every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, get alerted to all the betting content from WagerTalk, and of course, smash that like button for the Hustle Show podcast as well. Everything you're seeing here on WagerTalk TV. So for Brian Power, I'm Mark Zinno. You guys have a wonderful Monday. Cash some tickets. Enjoy all the games tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow.